of the more prudent questions in The First Omen is whether or not it is a good idea to do a prequel to a movie that's 50 years old. I'm very excited and somewhat interested to see how this movie does at the box office. However, this did get me to revisit the 1976 film, and it is still as great as ever. It's on Hulu now. I definitely recommend it. Richard Donner did just such a fantastic job directing that one. It's so well paced. It's taut, it's suspenseful, it's ominous. There are some great deaths running throughout the movie. And as far as the story goes, it is kind of ridiculous, but there are so many mysterious characters and just sacrificial offerings and all that kind of stuff that just kind of keeps your interest. And just to highlight the movie even more, Jerry Goldsmith's musical score. I mean, just wow, this was Academy Award nominated, and it definitely deserved it. It just underscores the dread of the whole thing. I'm not gonna say that I was hoping for something as great here. I definitely did not expect that, but I also did not expect this to be as boring and kind of lifeless as it is. The movie stars Nell Tiger-Free as Maggie. She is an American who goes to Rome after being sponsored to be a novitiate nun by one of the priests there. She is someone who has grown up in orphanages all of her life, and she is also known to be having visions. She's arriving in Rome at a dangerous time in 1971, where there were protests about Vietnam and also against the church. This church in particular is also weird as hell. It would send anyone running, but not Maggie, who sees that there's a mystery here and tries to solve it. This is all going to eventually lead us to the birth of the child, the Antichrist child, known as Damien. Now, part of the mystery here is that we don't exactly know who the mother of Damien really is. Could it be Maggie? She and a friend, they go out to experience the Rome nightlife at times. They are pre-nuns, so might as well show some skin, dance, drink, have a good time while you can. Or could it be Carlita, who is pretty much the biggest problem the convent has? This is an unwed mother who seems to have been traumatized to almost mental defectiveness. She often has to be locked up in her room. The nuns treat her very shabbily, and pretty much Maggie is the only one that seems to be on her side. She's trying to unravel what happened to her and also to kind of save her. Also, fans of the first film will recognize Father Brennan, who here is played by Ralph Ineson. In the first film, he was the guy who had all the insider information about Damien. Here, he's the guy who has all the insider information about what the church is actually up to. It's all conveyed with the same kind of crazy, wild-eyed, lunatic behavior. Pretty much saying that even when Damien was not born, the guy pretty much had the same personality. The movie was directed by Arkasha Stevenson, who I believe has done mostly TV. I think this is his first film. He does a pretty nice job with the darkness. There is a coldness to the convent, which comes off very chilly, very kind of creepy, and also the people who are even creepier and chillier. But I would say his best work here comes with impregnation and also birth. The way Damien is conceived, the way that he comes into the world, both of those scenes are very creepy, very disturbing. But also, there's another scene in this movie which is just, let's just say, showy. It's just it makes birthing look like you're being tortured by the Third Reich. It's a very creepy looking scene, but also it's one that I'm almost positive is why this movie got a hard R, and I'm almost positive is why this movie almost got an NC-17. I mean, I'm sure it had to do a lot of very crafty blocking to block out some more objectionable nudity. It kind of reminded me of the days back in the 90s when Eyes Wide Shut and Austin Powers had to do the same stuff. Remember when those movies were kind of similar? Yeah. Nell Tiger-Free also does a fantastic performance here as Maggie, as she keeps getting wrapped up more and more in this conspiracy and what's going on. I knew her pretty much from television. People told me that she was in Game of Thrones. I don't really remember her from that. I do remember her from M. Night Shyamalan's Servant, which is a pretty good show, pretty creepy. She was really good in that as well. But my biggest problem with prequels is that they always seem to want to reason away way and explain things that in the first movie seemed to work pretty much differently. Here, the explanations are kind of silly. They don't work. They don't really jive with things that we've learned about the omens from the past films. This one is just silly. There also isn't really much urgency here. It kind of goes back and forth between wanting to be a religious conspiracy thriller and wanting to be a horror movie, but as far as the scares go, there's too many times where it just kind of goes with the jump scares, and it's very predictable after a while. And as far as just a regular thriller goes, there's too much explanations here. There's too much downtime to really feel like the suspense is really building. It's kind of low on that. It's low on urgency. It also feels low. Just the pacing is off. And even as far as the gore goes, there's just scenes that feel like throwbacks to the old Omen. There's decapitations. There's also that one really famous scene involving the lady on the roof. It's all just kind of there so that people can kind of go, oh yeah, look at that. I remember that from the old movie. But here, these scenes kind of just don't even make as much sense as they did in that one. Overall, it feels like this movie is sometimes on track and it will go somewhere, but every time it does, it eventually just kind of falls back into the trap of the prequel, which is that more explanation needs to be needed, and from there it just kind of slows everything down. This is a very disappointing film. I'm sorry to say. That's why I'm going see, you guys. But that is my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Let me know down below there. Also, if you could, click that like button, click that subscribe button, and I do hope to see you back next time. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.